Hi everyone, and welcome to SWPL My Story. And today we are joined by Tracy Smith from Player Care and Support Services. How are you, Tracy?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
No, not at all. Thanks for coming on. So this is a little bit different from the stuff that we do. We're taking advantage of doing these recordings during International Week to show the growth and the variation within the game, different avenues that people can go down as in their career. If it isn't as a player, there's lots of different opportunities. So just to kick us off, can you just tell us a little bit about Player Care and Support Services and what it is that you offer?
Yeah, certainly. So we just fully launched last month. So very new. But basically we've noticed that there is a kind of need in the football industry that not all clubs have player care departments. And this is purely due to budget restraints as well. We wanted to make it more available to clubs that maybe do struggle to have that service. So they can use us on an ad hoc service, an ad hoc basis, or they can make it as an addition to any service that they offer within the club as well. So basically, we can tailor it to whatever they need. So it's often things like your operational side, where visas, obviously, there's a lot more players coming from abroad, and with Brexit, there's far more visas needing to be done now, which is a bit of a pain. So much easier before Brexit. um, Obviously, things like finding accommodation for players that need it, vehicles, car insurance, basically anything off the pitch that's going to help them on the pitch. A happy player off the pitch could convert to a happy player on the pitch. So, did I say that right, actually?
Yeah.
um, so, yeah, so, and obviously we do mentoring and wellbeing checks, which for me is one of the most important aspects of player care. Mental health, obviously, such a big thing, and nowadays with social media as well, it adds extra pressure to players. We can also do education, where we can have people come in and do some educational talks. We can help with personal development and pathways and options for players that are maybe looking for something after football. We can also help with host families, so a real wide spectrum of services that would fall under your player care spectrum.
That's great. And as you say, is it becoming more and more of a global game? Obviously, we are specifically looking at the women's game, and in Scotland, and we're seeing more and more influxes of players from abroad, which is great for our game and driving it up. But providing that care for them is paramount, as you said, to make sure that they're able to perform on the pitch. They need to be looked after properly off the pitch. So how is it you got into this line of work? I know you'd worked at clubs previously in similar sorts of roles.
Yeah, so well, it kind of took I kind of went round it a longer way. Started off on being nominated by a friend to put myself forward as a fan rep at Hibernian Football Club, because we were looking at that point when Leanne Dempsey was there to have fan reps. So you had to be nominated, then you went through a hustings process, which was so nerve-wracking. um, and everybody had little cards, and I'm like, oh, don't have cards. um, so managed to then get voted on, be the fan rep on the board, which was a nice surprise. It's a real eye opener because as a supporter, you don't see half of what's going on in the background. Um, so I think you learn to appreciate things that go on at the club as well. You learn to appreciate players a little bit better as you get to know them too. And it was during that role that Leanne Dempster and George Craig had asked if I could help new players coming into the club. They didn't have just one person that they could go to help them with accommodation, finding cars, opening bank accounts, all that kind of stuff that helps them settle in. So I started doing that, did that for about a year and a half, up until I had resigned from the board, which is another story. And then after that, I actually then went on to the women's board, where we then incorporated the women's team from the community foundation, so made it a limited company. So I did that. But during that time as well, I was also asked to be player lounge captain by Graham Matthey to look after the families on a match day in the players' lounge. Um, because we always found that it was easier for a player to walk into the dressing room, but not so easily for their partner. And you can come across like the most confident person, but they find in that environment it's quite hard to go up to someone and introduce themselves. So it's just making everybody feel comfortable and be able to introduce them to people that maybe, if they had kids, introduce them to another player's partner that had kids, maybe they lived close enough, and just make them feel really comfortable on a match day, so that it was enjoyable for them as well. And then I took up the role as player care liaison at Hibernian Football Club, and I did that for about a year and a half as well, where I was looking after the first team development. And when the women transitioned into the football club, I'd also helped them for the first few months as well. So that was things like the visas as well, accommodation, pick-up from the airport, the usual player care stuff, and just making sure that they felt comfortable being integrated into the club as well, because it was all new for them too.
So you're probably the best placed person to discuss this part. So in that time that you were involved with Hibs ladies, they were going towards the full-time status. So that was going to throw up a different sort of way of looking at it, way of approaching it. It would be differently approached from when you were working with the men's team. So how much support do you feel? I'm not asking you to throw anyone or anything under the bus, but did you feel that the support wasn't there and that's why it was required at such an early stage within the women's side to get that set up and support these players? Because obviously there was going to be lots of players, whether it's from down south or abroad, when we're offering full-time contracts now in this country, and more teams are doing it to make sure that those players do have that support and care.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, we were lucky because for the women's team, we had Stuart Maguire, who was the general manager. And of course, when we had changed to a limited company and we were taking it away from the community, it was still under the Community Foundation. They were the biggest shareholder, but we were more or less trying to sustain ourselves at a certain level on our own. And then we hired Dean Gibson as the manager as well. Now, both of them were just absolutely fantastic looking after players. They really went above and beyond some things with certain things as well. It was good to be able to assist them when things like players are coming in, make sure everything's all ready for them at apartments, and just making them feel really comfortable as quickly as possible. But obviously, we then had COVID not long after that, so that was another headache. When you're trying to bring money in as well, when you don't have the gate money, so you've not got really the visibility there, you're not got great social media because there's nothing really happening in the game either. And then when it transitioned into the football club, I think it was just making sure that everybody was happy, because obviously they were using the training ground facilities. And sometimes, obviously, these places, because it's so male dominated, they're not always set up for even female staff. So it's just making them feel kind of part of it. Can always say that the players always made them feel welcome. That was never a problem, but they did have different times when they had to come in, when they could train, when they could use the gym. And again, it was just making them try and make them feel as comfortable as possible, always know that the door was open for them, and try and help transition as easy as possible, make it as easy as possible. Before we transitioned into the club, I think people like Greg McEwen, that was the commercial director, he was fantastic and really helping and making us more visible as well, and making it kind of part of the club as well. So we did have a lot of help, and I think Ron Gordon, who was obviously the chairman and owner, he was fantastic and really wanted to bring the women's team into the club as well. So he was all for that. He wanted us all to be one. So it's good when you've got people like that, rooting for the women's game as well, and trying to help it as much as possible.
So going forward, then you decided, I know it's very recent, and you've went out on your own. What was it really that prompted you to do that? And I'm assuming now that then opens up lots more doors, because, as you say, not every club has the financial means to have a dedicated member of staff in order to do this. So maybe outsourcing is a better way to go. So was that part of the reason? Was it to help more players, help more clubs?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I love the job itself. It's great. I find I'm a people person as well. So and I like to help people. So it's just the perfect role, and I love football. It's a very different environment as well. And I think it's always a privilege when you're invited into that environment, because it takes a lot of trust as well from players, because there's so many different aspects of the game where, like your social media, your press, and there's so many things that can go against clubs and players. So to be able to kind of build that trust with people. And yeah, I just felt that there was a lot of clubs that really didn't have anybody there. And obviously, if you outsource it, it's cheaper than an employee as well. You don't have your HMRC and your payroll stuff. So it's making it working to those budgets that they have and making sure that they have that availability. And also, we decided to allow two clubs to work with us at no cost at all each year. They don't have to work with us beyond that year. It may be that within that year we help them get something set up or put policies and procedures in place that help them offer that service to players. But we just want to make it available to everybody. We incorporated in August, but I took my time before fully launching to obviously talk to players, talk to people in the game, look at our experiences that we've had as well, and just make sure that we got it right from the get-go.
That's great, Tracy. And how can people get in touch with you?
So we have our website, which is, and it is a mouthful, but I couldn't get the shortened version. Somebody had that, so I need to wait till we stop using it or it becomes cheaper. It's www.playercareandsupportservices.com. And all our contact details are on there, and there's also a contact form, or they can contact us by phone, which is 0141 611 0346. And there's always somebody available. So if there's a player finds themselves that they're in a crisis or they really need somebody to talk to, and it's say 3 o'clock in the morning, our phone lines are open. I just think the well-being part as well is just crucial, especially in this day and age in football.
That's great, Tracy. I think it's fantastic work that you're doing. It's definitely going to aid the game and aid the players and keep driving up those standards as well. So well done on all of that. And thanks so much for joining
Thank
us
you.
today.
No, thanks so much for having me on. It's been great, and you do great work for the women's game. It's great to see it getting promoted as well.
Not at all. Thanks very much, Tracy. And thanks everyone for joining us on SWPL My Story.